It is dipping season. People love dipping strawberries and pretzels this time of year in white chocolate and chocolate. It's the most fun treat to give, and you can sprinkle it with colorful sprinkles. So the only way to notice the difference between all these different ingredients, almond bark, white chocolate chips, candy melts, real white chocolate with cocoa butter in it, is to read the ingredient label. So the umbrella ingredients in all of the candy coatings and chocolates are fat, emulsifiers, flavorings, sugar, and other things that lend in concert to a good finished product. If you've ever noticed when you have melted chocolate chips that they get very viscous and almost lock up, and if you heat them more and keep stirring, you end up with a messy mass that is not easy to dip a pretzel, much less a pretzel rod or a strawberry into. That's why when you make a cookie and you heat up a chocolate chip, even if it's on the outside of your cookie, it doesn't melt into the cookie, it holds its shape. That is also why when you microwave chocolate chips, they do that. So that's why we're looking for something that's more fluid and easier to dip and to handle. Ghirardelli white chocolate chips have sugar and palm kernel oil, whole milk powder, NFMS, soy lecithin, and vanilla extract. You will often find almond bark in this format at big box stores. I think this is from Walmart, but that doesn't mean the stuff that you find at a craft store, a cake decorating store, or a specialty store is any different than this. So the ingredients that live in almond bark are sugar, hydrogenated palm kernel oil and palm oils, non-fat milk solids, which I will refer to as NFMS, and soy lecithin. That is an emulsifier. That is what makes it creamy and smooth. These white coating wafers from nuts.com look like this. This shape makes them very easy to melt and to portion out. Sugar, cocoa butter, whole milk, NFMS, milk fat, soy lecithin, and natural vanilla flavor. Ghirardellis are called white vanilla flavored melting wafers. They also look like the nuts.com. They're a little bit different color, but for the most part, they look very similar. Ghirardelli is a chocolate company, so it's interesting to read their ingredient label. Sugar, hydrogenated palm kernel oil and palm oil, NFMS and whole milk powder, soy lecithin, salt, and natural flavor. Wilton candy melts include hydrogenated palm kernel oil, whey powder and red dye number 40, whole milk powder, NFMS and lactose powder, soy lecithin, salt, and artificial flavor. Calabo white chocolate, which is real chocolate, comes in what they call colettes, and they look like chocolate chips, but they are not chocolate chips. Chocolate chips are designed to hold their shape. These are designed to be fluid when melted. The ingredient list on the white chocolate by Calabo is sugar, cocoa butter, whole milk powder, soy lecithin, and sunflower lecithin. All you have to do with white chocolate to keep it in temper is to melt it and not to stir it too much. If you agitate it too much or heat it up too high, you will take it out of temper, and that is when you will get a soft finish and cocoa bloom. So what do you do with all this label information? First of all, if there are ingredients you are allergic to, avoid them. If there are ingredients that you're trying to avoid because they aren't natural, avoid them. So ironically, the chocolate company doesn't even have cocoa butter in here, and the flavor is not as good as the nuts.com. The nuts.com does have cocoa butter in it, and cocoa butter is good flavor. So these white coating wafers are my favorite for flavor and for performance. I buy a tiny amount of colored wafers so that they can go into the white and create pinks and other colors, but the flavor on this guy is not good. Almond bark can tend to be a little bit chalky. If you've got a really sensitive palate, you may not like it, but it does perform okay, and it will cover very effectively in a good consistency strawberries and pretzels all day. So I recommend, if you are melting white chocolate or candy melts, that you put them in a microwave safe bowl and you microwave for 45 seconds and stir. And after that, 15-second increments, and if you get the urge to do more, don't. And as you get toward the end of melting, you might see a solid piece in there, leave it. This will incorporate, and don't over agitate or stir, but keep things moving off the bottom of the bowl in between each time that you blast it in the microwave. And then when you pull it out of the microwave, do not put it on a cold surface. Use an insulator like a cork trivet or a dry towel. The best way to save melted leftover product is by pouring it out onto a parchment sheet and letting it solidify, and then crunching it back up and putting it in a bag. Then you can use it over and over again. For troubleshooting, if you find that things are getting really thick, even with a good product, there are two things you can go with. One is very expensive, and it's just straight cocoa butter. It's a powder. I like this one. And if you're using something fake, like a candy coating, an almond bark, or a candy wafer, you are going to want to use what are called Paramount crystals. They're fat in a flake form. That way you can just add a little bit at a time. So if you don't have Paramount crystals, you can always use shortening. There are a lot of different kinds of shortenings, but just test with a little bit and see how you like it. But that will help get your fluidity back. So when you get started dipping your strawberries, just remember, no chocolate chips. Candy wafers are great, and these have really good flavor. Almond bark and things at the grocery store work, but they're not going to have really great flavor, but they're going to function. Chocolate, and even white chocolate is made from cocoa butter, is always your best bet for flavor, but it's going to take a little bit more of a technical approach. If you need to thin anything out, you're going to use Paramount crystals or cocoa butter. Become a label reader, because in the end, no matter how much you want to swap one ingredient for the other, ingredients are going to ingredient. They're going to do them, you know? And you can't make a chocolate chip chocolate. You can't make chocolate a chocolate chip. So when you focus on the ingredient label and you break down every ingredient, and if you don't know what it is, look it up, you will begin to decide if certain products are right for you or if you want to look for something else. I don't want to see you frustrated when you're dipping your pretzels in strawberries. I want you to have a good outcome. So I hope this helped, and happy dipping.